Have you ever stood at the edge of a dream, so close you could almost touch it, but something holds you back? It's like there's this invisible barrier between you and what you want, and no matter how hard you try, it won't break. You push, you strain, you give it everything you've got, but nothing moves. That feeling? It's not you being lost or failing. It's not even confusion. It's just you trying to force something that's not ready to happen yet. We've all been there, right? You're chasing a goal, a relationship, a breakthrough, and it feels like you're running into a wall over and over again. Most people, when they hit that wall, assume they're doing something wrong. They spiral. They start doubting themselves, questioning every choice, every step. They think, if I'm stuck, it must be my fault. But what if that's not true? What if being stuck isn't a sign you're failing, but a signal you need to pause? Here's the thing nobody tells you: sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. Not because you're giving up, but because you're giving space for things to unfold. Think about a time you tried to remember a word or a name, and it was right there, on the tip of your tongue. The harder you tried, the more it slipped away. But the moment you stopped obsessing, the moment you let go and moved on with your day, it hit you like a lightning bolt. That's not random. That's how life works. Your mind, your intuition, your whole being is always working behind the scenes, piecing things together, finding answers you didn't even know you were looking for. But when you're in overdrive, when you're forcing things to happen on your terms, you're drowning out that quiet wisdom. It's like turning up the volume on static. You can't hear the signal anymore. Most of us live like we're in a constant race against time, like if we don't figure it all out right now, we're doomed. But real growth? Real clarity? It doesn't follow your schedule. It has its own rhythm, its own flow. And when you try to control it, when you demand answers before they're ready, you're not speeding things up, you're slowing them down. Let me ask you something that might shift how you see things. What if the things you're struggling with right now, the choices you can't make, the path that feels foggy, what if they're not problems to solve? What if they're just not ready to be solved yet? What if your job isn't to force the pieces to fit, but to get comfortable with the not knowing? Because forcing comes from fear. It's you saying, I need this to happen my way, on my timeline, or I'm not okay. But life doesn't bend to your deadlines. It moves at its own pace, whether you're stressed about it or not. And here's where we get it wrong: we think letting go means giving up. We think accepting uncertainty is the same as being lazy or weak. But the people who seem to have it all together, who make success look effortless, they're not the ones gripping the wheel, trying to control every detail. They're the ones who know when to act and when to wait. It's like chasing something you want: a job, a relationship, a dream. The harder you chase, the more it slips through your fingers. But when you stop running, when you ease up and just show up as yourself, things start to flow. Ever notice that? You stress over an interview, overanalyze every word, and it flops. But that one time you walked in relaxed, not tied to the outcome, they couldn't wait to hire you. That's not luck. That's alignment. That effortless flow? It's not magic, it's energy. When you're chasing something with everything you've got, when you're clinging to a specific outcome, you're broadcasting a signal. And it's not the one you think. Desperation has a frequency, and it's loud. People feel it. Situations feel it. Even opportunities seem to sense it and shy away. When you're forcing things, you're shouting to the world, I don't trust this will work out. I don't trust myself. And that energy? It pushes away the very things you're trying to pull closer. Think about it. You've seen it in relationships. The more you try to impress someone, the more you bend over backwards to make them like you, the more awkward and strained things get. But when you're just being yourself, when you're not tied to whether they approve of you or not, everything clicks. It's natural. It's easy. That's because you're not radiating neediness. You're radiating confidence, trust, openness. And that's the frequency that attracts what's meant for you. When you're desperate, you're operating from a place of lack. You're saying, I need this job, this person, this moment to define me, to make me whole. But when you let go, when you stop gripping so tightly, you shift to a different vibe. You're saying, I'm good with or without this. I trust that what's right for me will come when it's time. And that shift changes everything. Suddenly, you're not just chasing, you're magnetic. Here's where it gets wild. When you stop forcing, you start seeing things you missed before. Opportunities that were sitting there, waiting, but you were too stressed to notice. People who were ready to help, but you were too caught up in your own head to see them. Signs pointing you in the right direction, but you were too busy obsessing over your own plan to pay attention. It's like you've been driving through life with blinders on, gripping the steering wheel so hard your knuckles are white, convinced that if you don't control every move, you'll crash. But the truth? You've been fighting the very map that's trying to guide you. Life isn't out to get you, it's trying to lead you somewhere better than you could have planned. And when you loosen your grip, when you stop trying to micromanage every detail, you start noticing the road signs. You realize the detours weren't dead ends, they were part of the journey. Now, don't get me wrong. This isn't about sitting back and doing nothing. This isn't about throwing your hands up and saying, whatever happens, happens. It's about knowing the difference between action that feels right and action that feels forced. Inspired action comes from a place of clarity, a quiet confidence that says, this is the next step, and it feels good. Desperate action? That's all fear and impatience. It's exhausting. It's like swimming against a current, flailing to stay afloat. Inspired action, though? It's like swimming with the current. It's smooth. It's effortless. You're not fighting the flow, you're moving with it. And that's when things start to fall into place in ways you never could have orchestrated. You meet the right person at the right time. An opportunity drops into your lap that feels like it was custom-made for you. But here's the catch, you can't force that flow. You can't make it happen by sheer willpower. You have to trust it. Most of us don't, though. We're so conditioned to believe that success comes from grinding, from pushing harder, from never letting up. We think if we're not in control, we're failing. But what if control is the problem? What if the harder you try to force your life to look a certain way, the more you're limiting what's possible? What if the life you're trying to create is actually smaller than the one waiting for you? We're obsessed with control, aren't we? We think if we can just plan every step, predict every outcome, and force things to go our way, we'll be okay. But here's the hard truth, life doesn't care about your 5-year plan. It doesn't care about the vision board you spent hours perfecting or the timeline you've set for your dreams. Life has its own rhythm, its own schedule, and it's always working on something bigger than you can see. When you're forcing things, you're not just fighting life, you're fighting yourself. Think about it. How many times have you stressed yourself out trying to make something happen, only to realize later it wasn't even what you needed? That job you wanted so badly, the one you cried over when it didn't work out, then months later, something better came along, and you realized you dodged a bullet. Or that relationship you tried to force, bending over backwards to make it work, only to see in hindsight it wasn't right for you. That's not failure. That's life redirecting you. When you're stuck in that cycle of forcing, you're operating from a limited perspective. You're trying to solve problems with the same mindset that created them, like trying to fix a broken car with a paperclip. But when you step back, when you give life room to breathe, you open the door to possibilities you couldn't have imagined. Solutions show up that you never would have thought of. Opportunities appear that don't even exist in your current frame of mind. This is why breakthroughs often happen when you're not trying. You're in the shower, on a walk, laughing with a friend, and suddenly, bam, it hits you. The answer, the idea, the clarity you've been chasing for weeks. That's not random. It's your deeper intelligence at work, the part of you that's always processing, always connecting the dots. But it can only do its job when you stop drowning it out with mental noise. Most of us don't trust that process, though. We're taught that if we're not hustling, we're not trying hard enough. We're told that waiting is lazy, that uncertainty is weakness. But what if uncertainty is actually your greatest ally? What if the moments when you feel lost are the moments life is preparing you for something bigger? Those delays, those detours, those not yets, they're not holding you back. They're shaping you. Here's a mind bender. What if the things you're struggling with right now aren't problems at all? What if they're just pieces of a puzzle that hasn't come together yet? Your job isn't to force the pieces to fit, it's to trust they will when the time is right. Because when you force, you're acting out of fear. You're saying, I can't handle the unknown. But when you trust, you're saying, I'm open to what's coming, even if I can't see it yet. That shift, from fear to trust, changes how you move through the world. You stop seeing every setback as a crisis. You start seeing it as a setup for something better. You stop asking, why isn't this happening yet, and start asking, what's this teaching me? You stop trying to control the outcome and start getting curious about the journey. And that curiosity? It's like a superpower. It opens your eyes to possibilities you were too stressed to see before. When you let go of the need to control, you create space for life to surprise you. You start noticing synchronicities, those little moments that feel too perfect to be coincidence. The person you meet by chance who has exactly what you need. The idea that pops into your head at just the right moment. That's not luck. That's what happens when you stop fighting the flow and start moving with it. You're not giving up, you're aligning with something bigger. When you stop fighting the natural flow of life, something incredible happens. You start to align with it. Alignment isn't about sitting back and waiting for the universe to hand you everything on a silver platter. It's about moving with intention, acting when it feels right, and trusting when it's time to wait. It's about tuning into life's rhythm instead of trying to rewrite the song. And when you do that, things start to click in ways that feel almost magical. You know those moments when everything just falls into place? You meet the right person at the perfect time, or an opportunity shows up that feels like it was made for you. That's alignment at work. It's not about forcing doors open, it's about walking through the ones that are already ajar. But here's the thing, you can't see those doors when you're too busy banging on the ones that are locked. When you're forcing, you're so focused on what you think should happen that you miss what's actually happening. Let's break it down. Forcing comes from a place of scarcity. It's you saying, there's only one way this can work, and I need it now. But alignment? That's abundance. It's saying, there are infinite ways this could unfold, and I'm open to them all. That shift in mindset changes how you show up. You stop radiating panic and start radiating possibility. You stop repelling opportunities and start attracting them. Think about someone you know who seems to have it all together. They're not perfect, but somehow, things always seem to work out for them. They land the job, find the partner, stumble into opportunities that seem too good to be true. What's their secret? It's not luck. It's not even hard work, though they probably work hard. It's that they've learned to move with life instead of against it. They've learned to plant seeds and trust they'll grow instead of digging them up every day to check. That trust, it's not passive. It's active. It's showing up, doing your part, but not obsessing over the outcome. It's like planting a garden. You till the soil, you water the seeds, you make sure they get sunlight, but you don't rip them out of the ground to see if they're sprouting yet. You trust the process. You know that growth takes time, and rushing it only ruins it. Life's the same way. When you trust its timing, you create space for things to unfold naturally. And here's where it gets really interesting. When you're aligned, you don't just attract opportunities, you attract the right opportunities. The ones that feel like they fit. The ones that don't leave you exhausted or second-guessing yourself. You ever notice how some things, when they happen, just feel right? Like you were always meant to be there, doing that, with those people. That's what alignment feels like. It's not forced. It's not a struggle. It's like coming home. But most of us don't live that way. We're too busy trying to make life match our mental picture of how things should be. We have this idea of what success looks like, when it should happen, how it should feel, and we'll do anything to make reality fit that mold. But what if that mold is too small? What if the life you're trying to force is actually less than what's waiting for you? When you let go of that rigid vision, you open yourself up to something bigger, something you couldn't have planned if you tried. Alignment is about trusting that life sees the bigger picture. It knows what you need to learn, who you need to meet, what needs to happen before you're ready for the next step. And when you lean into that trust, you stop creating resistance. You stop swimming upstream. You start moving with the current, and that's when life starts to feel less like a fight and more like a dance. Alignment sounds great, but let's be real, it's not always easy. Trusting life's timing means letting go of the need to know exactly when or how things will work out, and that can feel terrifying. We're wired to want certainty, to want answers now. But what if the uncertainty you're wrestling with is actually the soil where your growth is happening? What if life's delays are preparing you for something you're not quite ready for yet? Think about it like this: every time you've tried to force something, a job, a relationship, a decision, how did it turn out? Maybe it worked for a while, but deep down, it didn't feel right. Or maybe it crashed and burned, and you realized later it wasn't meant for you anyway. That's because forcing operates on your timeline, which is built on fear and impatience. But life's timeline? It's built on readiness, alignment, and perfect orchestration. And life's timeline is always better. When you trust life's timing, you're not saying, "I give up." You're saying, "I'm open to what's coming, even if it looks different than I expected." You're shifting from desperation to curiosity, from needing to knowing. And that shift creates space for miracles, not the cheesy kind, but the kind where things fall into place in ways you never could have planned. Like the job that shows up right when you stop obsessing over your career path. Or the person who walks into your life when you're no longer chasing love. Here's the paradox: the more you let go, the more you receive. When you're desperate, you're like a clenched fist, nothing can get in. But when you open your hand, when you stop gripping so tightly, life can place exactly what you need in your palm. That's why people who seem lucky aren't lucky at all, they're aligned. They've learned to work with life's flow instead of against it. They don't panic when things don't happen on their schedule. They trust that what's meant for them won't miss them. And here's the beautiful part: when you trust life's timing, you stop sabotaging yourself. You stop creating resistance with your impatience and fear. You stop saying no to opportunities just because they don't look like what you expected. You start saying yes to the journey, to the detours, to the moments of not knowing. Because those moments? They're not empty. They're full of potential. They're where life is doing its quiet work, setting the stage for what's next. Let me ask you something: what if the thing you're stressing about right now, the decision you can't make, the goal that feels out of reach, what if it's not ready because you're not ready? Not in a bad way, but in a way that means life is still shaping you, teaching you, preparing you for something bigger. Every delay, every uncertainty, every "not yet" is part of that process. It's not a punishment. It's a gift. When you start seeing it that way, everything changes. You stop asking, "Why isn't this happening?" and start asking, "What's this moment teaching me?" You stop trying to force the next chapter and start appreciating the one you're in. Because here's the truth: you're not behind. You're not lost. You're exactly where you need to be, even if it doesn't feel like it. And when the time is right, when you're truly ready, what's meant for you will show up, not a second too late. That's the power of trusting life's timing. It's not about waiting passively, it's about moving forward with faith, knowing that every step, every pause, every moment is part of a bigger story. A story that's unfolding exactly as it should, even when you can't see the ending yet. And when you lean into that trust, you start to feel something new, not just hope, but peace. So, how do you actually do this? How do you stop forcing and start flowing? It starts with a shift in how you see yourself and the world around you. When you let go of the need to control every outcome, you're not giving up on your dreams, you're giving them room to breathe. You're saying, I trust that what's meant for me will find me, and I'm ready to meet it when it does. That's not just a mindset, it's a way of living. And when you live that way, life starts to feel less like a battle and more like a dance. This doesn't mean you stop taking action. It means you act from a place of clarity, not chaos. You listen to that quiet inner voice that tells you when to move and when to wait. You start noticing the difference between effort that feels aligned and effort that feels like you're slamming your head against a wall. Inspired action feels light, natural, like the next obvious step. Desperate action feels heavy, forced, like you're trying to bend reality to your will. One moves you forward, the other just wears you out. Here's the secret, life is always working for you, not against you. Those moments when you feel stuck, when nothing seems to be going your way. They're not roadblocks, they're redirections. They're life's way of saying, not this, but something better. Or, not now, but soon. Every delay is a lesson. Every uncertainty is a chance to grow. Every, not yet, is preparing you for the moment when everything clicks. And when that moment comes, it'll feel so right, so natural, you'll wonder why you ever tried to force it. Think about the times in your life when things just worked out. Maybe it was a chance encounter that led to a life-changing opportunity. Maybe it was a decision you made on a whim that turned out to be exactly what you needed. Those moments didn't happen because you planned every detail, they happened because you were open, because you trusted, because you weren't fighting the flow. That's what it means to live in alignment. You do your part, but you let life do its part, too. And when you live this way, something almost magical happens. The universe, or whatever you want to call it, starts to conspire in your favor. Not because you're manifesting or thinking positive thoughts, but because you're vibrating at a different frequency. You're no longer broadcasting fear or desperation. You're broadcasting trust, openness, possibility. And that energy attracts the people, opportunities, and moments that are meant for you. It's like life starts meeting you halfway. So, if you're feeling stuck right now, if you're frustrated because things aren't happening the way you planned, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what if I'm exactly where I need to be? What if this moment, this uncertainty, is part of the process? What if life is setting me up for something I can't even imagine yet? Instead of forcing the next step, try trusting it. Instead of demanding answers, get curious about the journey. Instead of chasing what you think you want, open yourself up to what life wants to give you. Because here's the truth, when something is truly meant for you, when the timing is right, when you're ready, you won't have to force it. It'll flow like a river, carrying you exactly where you're meant to go. It'll feel like coming home. So stop swimming upstream. Stop fighting the current. Start flowing with it, and watch how life unfolds in ways you never could have planned. You're not lost. You're not behind. You're right on time. And the best is still to come.